How is it going, ladies and gentlemen, beyond the benches? It is your man JT coming at you with this video to discuss some Miami Dolphins head coaching search storylines, rumors, who is expected to get an interview, who are the Dolphins kind of rumored with, and all these things in between. So, of course, for a lot of teams, they're now starting the playoffs, or for 20 other NFL teams, their offseason has begun, and they are beginning, if they haven't already, been asking the question, what do we do to fix things, change things, and get us into the playoffs next year? And the Dolphins are certainly one of those teams, having fired Adam Gase, the head coach. They also relieved Mike Tannenbaum of any of his duties and powers as a player personnel, and now Chris Grier is the one true GM. And the system they are going for is, instead of having these different branches and kind of a three-headed guy, they want a direct chain of command from Stephen Ross to Chris Grier to the coach. They have the owner, they have the vice president / general manager. Now all they need is that head coach, and they have 6 guys that the team are currently set to interview, or at least have shown a lot of interest in. And so I'm going to go over those 6 guys, my thoughts and opinions on them. How do I think they would make us better in comparison to Adam Gase and what we've had the last 3 years? What do they do better? What are some of my concerns? All those things. So the first candidate that I'll go and talk about is the Steelers O-line coach. And it's kind of funny. Mike Munich, and I may get some of these names wrong, by the way. So let me know in the comment section. Some of these guys I know of, some of these guys I heard about 2 days ago for the first time. So apologize if I get any names wrong here. But it was funny because on Twitter, I said, watch, the Dolphins will probably replace him with some O-line coach. And that's exactly what they have. But Mike was a coach at one point for the Tennessee Titans. So I am familiar with him from that time, even though I didn't really follow the Titans. That's where I heard the name from before. He was their head coach for 3 years. No playoffs. Ultimately got fired because he wouldn't make the changes that the team wanted him to make. Ended up with the Steelers, kind of rebuilt his reputation, and now here he is again, potentially getting a head coaching job. This, to me, is probably the weakest candidate the Dolphins have interviewed, which is why it wouldn't surprise me if we hired him. But, not currently an offensive or defensive coordinator, so he's not controlling one side of the ball. Limited responsibility just on that O-line. He's been a head coach before, so he does have head coaching experience, which is a plus, but it's also a bad experience. So do you want, that's the thing I always tell, a lot of Dolphin fans always get, enough of these inexperienced coach. Get someone with experience. Get someone with experience. Well, if it's somebody with good experience who's been a head coach in the past and is good, 1, they probably still have a job. 2, they're probably not going to go to a bad team, i.e. the Miami Dolphins. So the people with head coaching experience that you're probably going to get are people who have been a head coach before, failed, got fired, had a few good years to kind of rebuild themselves, and now could get a second chance. This is that guy. Let me know if you want him. They also are going to interview their current special teams coach, Darren Rizzi. Now, some people feel like this could be a courtesy interview, trying to convince Darren Rizzi to stay, even as all the other coaches get fired. The last time when they went from Joe Philbin as the head coach to Adam Gase as the head coach, they fired everybody except Darren Rizzi. They love what he's done. They love what he's done to the special teams. Dolphin fans love him. There are a large portion of Dolphin fans that want him to just become the head coach. I would find it very surprising to see the Dolphins promote from within, though. They talked a lot about rebuilding and shaking things up and building from the ground up. They've already promoted from within when it comes to their new VP. Now, if you do that at head coach as well, it basically negates everything that you said about rebuilding and creating something new. So I do think they would like to hang on to Darren Rizzi as the special teams coordinator. As far as him becoming a head coach, I like him, and I think he could really bring some discipline to this team and could really be a good head coach, but it's going to come down to what kind of coordinators he brings, because he doesn't specialize in offense or defense, so he's going to have to get guys around him that can do that. Not impossible, but that would be my biggest concern with hiring Darren Rizzi. Next up is Cowboys defensive back coach and passing game coordinator Chris Richard, and I really am starting to like this guy. He's the youngest guy that they've shown interest in. Former player, he was a part of the Seattle Seahawks coaching staff during the Legion of Boom era and the Seahawks teams that went to Super Bowls. He then went on to get a job with the Cowboys, where they have given him responsibilities on offense and defense. So he's had success everywhere he's gone. And the fact that, a team like the Cowboys trust him on offense and defense really points well to being a head coach. Again, also winning experience with Seattle. Now, the biggest concern would be his age. He's only 39 years old. Again, youngest guy that they've shown interest in, and he hasn't yet been an offensive or defensive coordinator, so limited responsibilities to this point. It would be a pretty huge leap to suddenly make him a head coach. But again, the resume is quite impressive, and there have been guys like Richard Sherman and others who have endorsed him as becoming a head coach. So that could be an interesting candidate. Vic Fangio, probably maybe the most popular option out there, the current Bears defensive coordinator. Obviously, the Bears have had a big resurgence lately, and the biggest part of that has been their defense. Their defense has been lights out. Now, they have stud players, but you got to give some credit to Vic Fangio for that. He also could probably bring in the best offensive and defensive coordinators because he has the most experience. Two slight concerns with Vic Fangio. If hired, he's obviously been defense his whole life. He has 20 years of defense. At the end of the day, it's an offensive league now. Offenses are what runs things. You got to be able to pass the ball. You got to be able to score touchdowns. It's just that simple. So Vic Fangio would have to go out and get a really good offensive assistant coach for me to truly buy into him being hired. The other concern, he's already 60 years old. The oldest coach or oldest coaches are Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, currently 67. Both, there's reports that they could retire at any point. So again, even with the guy like Vic Fangio, if he hits and you finally get that great coach you've been looking for, how long does he stick around? 10 years at best till he's age 70 and probably retires. That's a limited potential. And I understand, most of the time, even good coaches don't last 20 years. You need to make changes. So it's not the biggest concern in the world, but it is there. Let me try and think. They also have Eric Bieniemy, I believe it is. Again, may have the name wrong there, but the Kansas City Chiefs current offensive coordinator. Now, we've seen a lot of coaches from the Chiefs go on to become head coaches and have success. Matt Nagy with the Bears, Doug Peterson with the Eagles, who won a Super Bowl last year. So these people coming from Andy Reid, there's a track record there. The one thing I will say is Bieniemy is basically the hot offensive coordinator that's never been a head coach before. And 3 years ago, that's what we hired in Adam Gase. That's what Adam Gase was. So to fire Adam Gase and basically, in my opinion, hire Adam Gase with 3 years less coaching experience is kind of a lateral move at best. And again, people will say, well, he could work well with our fast guys. Well, Gase did, but I was like, again, what are you really changing? I'm not saying he could be better than Adam Gase. I don't know. But just from what I do know, it doesn't appear to really be a move that speaks of a lot of difference. And lastly, they're planning to interview, I believe today, Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator from the Patriots. Now, Patriot coaches, when they leave that great team, that organization, do not have a great track record. Most of them don't pan out, with the exception maybe being Bill O'Brien with the Houston Texans, who are now in the playoffs a couple of times under Bill. So that could be the lone exception, but, we've seen a lot of guys kind of struggle when they leave that Patriot system. Not only that, Brian Flores isn't even like a Matt Patricia, who was the hot Patriots coach last year, ended up getting a job with the Detroit Lions. He's a smaller name. He's really only been in charge of the defense for 1 year. He's probably their third coach at best. I mean, even if you were to hire a Patriots coach, I want Josh McDaniels. I know a lot of Dolphins fans don't like him, but I don't care that he's a jerk. He's a good offensive coach. Like, it's just... You know what I mean? I don't need you to be a nice guy or necessarily the most loyal or anything like that. I mean, if you can coach, that's what this team needs at this moment. And I don't think we'd get Josh McDaniels anyway. I think he's sticking with the Patriots, and he's probably going to replace Bill Belichick someday. But my point is, Patriots coaches don't have a good track record, and you're getting maybe the third or fourth best coach that they have. I would pass on those two situations. Currently, the two that interest me the most is Vic Fangio, particularly if he can get a good offensive coordinator to go with him, and Chris Richard. Young, could be here a while, has a great track record. As well, I would want to know what kind of coordinators you get. He'd probably need an experienced, veteran coordinator to go with them, considering his age. But those would be the two guys that I would put at the top of my list right now. I'll let you know if anybody else comes out again. So, some teams are still in the playoffs, so until those teams lose in the playoffs, maybe those coaches aren't even interested in any other job. So maybe a team could lose, and all of a sudden somebody becomes available that we didn't think was available previously. But of the six, I think three of them I have no interest in. Eric Bieniemy of the Chiefs, If we do hire him, I won't complain. I think it'd be kind of going the same route. And then I have two guys that kind of pique my interest, but I'm not in love with any of these names. Let me know if you guys are, or if you're sold on anybody already and you want them to be the head coach. Let me know down below. But that is all for me. Peace out.